All right. Hey, welcome back, friends, to Three Old Friends and Music Never Ends, our pretty much weekly playlist and podcast. We're up to number 38 now. And this time it was my choice to choose. And so I figured with February rolling around and Valentine's Day coming up, what better topic than to come up with love songs, which we've sprinkled throughout our playlist here and there, but never have we focused solely on the theme of love. So we thought we would do that, and there's tons of music out there, tons of different songs and genres and stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into our playlist for love. So I got the opportunity to start it out, and I did want to look at doing something fairly cheesy. I was thinking let's get the cheesiest love songs I can find, but cooler heads prevailed, and I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. I might slip one or two of those in there, but I started out with a song called "I Love You" by the Climax Blues Band, and again, they weren't one of those bands that was on my hit list, and I didn't have their albums and all that. I don't even know anything other songs they do other than just this one song. But I've always liked it. It's always been in my playhouse. I'm sorry, my playlist in my wheelhouse. And I don't know. It's just I think is a kind of a cool song about love, and guy gets his life turned around, finds his wife, finds his love of his life, and and then it got the phrase "I love you" within that. So anyway, that's how I started it off. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I remember this song. It's weird because I said this about a Beatles song. I remember where I was when I heard this song, and it's not that it was like, a huge favorite of mine, but I just remember we were going to maybe my first Texas Rangers game at the old stadium in the late 70s. And it came on the radio and it was turned way down. And for a second, I was like, is that Paul McCartney? And I heard like the slide guitar. It's like, yeah, anyway, which I like that slide guitar. I thought it was pretty cool. I meant to look it up and see who did that. That time in the 70s, there's a lot of musicians out there that I really liked as session work. But yeah, it's a good song. It reminds me of, those late 70s singer-songwriters like Stephen Bishop or, oh, what is the guy's name? Andrew Gold. I did Thank You for Being My Friend, or, those it kind of remind me of that kind of, we use this word a lot, vibe. But it's a sweet little song.
Right. It's a good way to start it. And I was talking to my friend the other day, and love songs are musicians go, love songs or Christmas songs. I don't know which one are more, but there are plenty of those. And a musician does the Christmas album or does love songs, and both of them hit. And of course, this one is one of those that, like Dave said, it's in the tradition of some pop love song, hitting all the right notes, hitting all the right things about love and what love means, and that kind of thing. And as we'll see in this on this playlist, you know, uh, love can be interpreted in different ways, and how it affects us and stuff. But this was a classic. I love you. This is why. Let me count the ways, so to speak. And so, yeah, I thought it was a good way to start the playlist. So then I followed it up with "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran. And Ed Sheeran, first date, put him on first, and so then he's always an interesting guy. He's not my favorite, but he does have some clever, nice songs, and this is one of those that I thought was one of those clever songs. And then the soon-to-be released Beatles play. We talked a little bit about it in the movie, and when he's in the movie yesterday as well. And I always think he's an interesting guy, and so I thought this song fit kind of right in with that. 70s to 2000, 21st century. It's still the same theme: love, perfect. You're perfect. You're perfect for me. And that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd try to follow it up with that.
Well, Ed Sheeran, he's got a lot of songs like that are way cool and love songs. And I have to make a little bit of a confession. I knew this song. I know it pretty well. I probably heard it a lot of times on the radio. But sometimes, you listen to these songs, and unless you're into that group or that person or whatever, it's in the old days. the radio station DJ or whoever would then follow it up and go, hey, you just heard Ed Sheeran, perfect, right? They don't do that anymore, right? So it's like you don't know. So unless you're really listening and in tune to the lyrics and listening to it, I had no idea what the name of the song was. I knew the song, but I didn't know the name of the song, right? Until you put it on, and then I'm like, oh, okay, oh, that's where they say, oh, perfect, yeah, that's the name of the song. And confession too, I had a couple of songs that I was thinking about putting on with Ed Sheeran. Again, I don't know a lot of his stuff, but Thinking Out Loud was the other song that it's kind of it's a love song, and I was going to put that one on. So when you jumped and put Ed Sheeran on right away, Jose, I said, okay, I'll scratch that one. But it was a good follow up to the first song. I really liked it. In fact, we're going to probably hear this, but there's a good flow to a lot of these songs. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but just the sequence of songs that we all put on seemed to fit really well. And this one went real good after that first one. So love me some Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, I basically could echo everything you just said, Dave. I didn't know much about Ed Sheeran until put this stuff on. I know the kids like him, although, you know, kids for me, that was a few years ago when he first started up. So, you know, he's young to me. Yeah, it's like I heard it on the radio many times and just didn't really pay attention to it. I might have even switched stations. But that's one of the good things about doing this is so now it's like we're going to talk about it. So I need to give it a proper listen and particularly pay attention to the lyrics. And the lyrics are great. I mean, it's straightforward. You know, this is why you're my everything. You know, it's a great love song, kind of expanding on what the first song was. And so I'm coming around on Ed Sheeran. I'm trying to. Did we just do the two so far? Because we did the one about the girl who's in trouble.
We had the Elton John one, the Christmas one too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
That's
the
right.
18.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, and then I kind of followed up. I had planned on putting this on somewhere, and so it seemed like a good place to start. So it's Love, just Love by John Lennon, which gee, he or the fellow Beatles never wrote any songs about love, but this one is off of Plastic Ono Band. I think that was his first, well, excluding the two kind of avant-garde things he did with Yoko. This is I guess his first thing post Beatles, and it definitely has that sound to it. I could hear, you know, with a little adjustment, them doing this song. It's a very basic love is real, love is feeling, you know, just simple words with a chorus, or I guess I don't know if it's a chorus or a bridge, but and I love the arrangement. It's just piano and guitar, I believe, and it's I guess he played both. I didn't look it up. I should know by now, but anyway, I wanted to get on there and seemed like a good place to put it.
Right. It's like I said, it's not a love song like the first two. It's not your traditional pop love song, which of course we all know John Lennon could write and chastised at times Paul McCartney for writing them. But you know, it's just one of those songs where it's love is real, and how much more plain can you get? And so it's interesting that he can add that element to it as yes, he's falling in love with Yoko Ono, but at the same time he's also translating love is around everywhere, and it should be love is real. So it's always a great song to hear. You know, like we said in the Beatles one, which hasn't come out yet, but it will. That they wrote about love, and that's why I think they're enduring, and that's why I think the Beatles are enduring. I think that's why John Lennon is enduring.
This was another song that I actually had on my list. So when you picked it, Mike, I gotta say that was one that I had on my, 20 or 25 songs that I was considering, and this was one of them. So it starts going. I start going, yeah. I like when you two both end up picking songs or artists that I was going to pick. It makes it easier for me. But yeah, I like the lyrics on this. I just like how he flips it, where he just, love is touch, and then he goes, touch is love, love is reaching, reaching love, you know, and that to me, that's lyrical brilliance really right there. But it's just a beautiful song. Um, and it's always been one of my favorites. So I'm glad it made it onto the love playlist because it's a good one. Um, my next selection then at that point was um, kind of going back to a tried and true. I know we all have our favorites and the things. I've played quite a few Jerry Jeff Walker songs throughout all of our playlists. Of course, 600 plus songs later. But this is another love song that Jerry Jeff does. And I think I put one on the very first one, but it was our test one, and we didn't end up doing a podcast on it. But I put "Woman in Texas" on that one. And this is probably one of my second favorite Jerry Jeff love songs, but it's called "Last Night I Fell in Love with You Again." And he just talks about how he's been married for a while, but he looks at his wife and realizes that he's fallen in love all over again. And then he talks about a few things about love coming in waves, and that you got to cultivate it. You got to make love grow. He talks to his friend who kind of let his love slip away, didn't do all the little things he needed to do to keep it there. And then the last verse, it just really gets me when he says, um, uh, "What a lovely woman you've turned into, and how lucky I am to be in love with you." I mean, that to me is just, it almost brings tears to my eyes and makes me cry. I mentioned that I sometimes will throw these songs on. My wife will listen, not to the whole playlist, but I'll be in the car and I'll go, "Hey, listen to this song." And just yesterday, we were out and about, and I had the playlist there, and I said, "Hey, listen to this song." I'm not sure she'd ever heard this Jerry Jeff song, and so I put it on, and she got a little misty as well. She's like, "Oh, that's so nice, thank you," And so it was kind of a little Valentine's thing, for her. But yeah, I think it's just a really nice song. I love Jerry Jeff Walker's voice too, and so anyway, had to put it on.
Yeah, I appreciate these Jerry Jeff songs you're putting on. Not all of them, but a lot of them were more recent ones, and I was really just familiar. I basically had the greatest hits record, some like Great Gonzos or something like that, and then Viva Terlingua, and which is it's him, but he's doing covers, and then he has Gary P. Nunn and some other people on there. Anyway, and so I really like these newer ones. And the thing about this one, in addition to it's sweet, I keep falling in love with you again. It has something that's kind of you mentioned it, but it's not like the major part of the song. Talking to his friend about you need, you need to love needs a little work to keep it going. And his friend is like, "I nearly lost my person because of I wasn't paying attention." And I think the next couple of songs have that element. And I can definitely, in all honesty, in the past, I've been more inwardly focused. And especially when I was younger, it's like, I didn't really appreciate that needs to be something it takes work, just like, all right, we're in love, happily ever after the end. But yeah, so I'll talk more about those other songs when we get to them.
Yeah, I never would have thought Dave would be the premier Jerry Jeff Walker guy growing up. That's for sure. But hey, things always change, and for the better. And so, yeah, and this is one of those songs, and I think he says it in there. You just can't take love for granted. It's a constant work in progress, as you guys know. I obviously probably am that friend that probably didn't do it, but you can't take it for granted, and you have to work at it day in and day out, and you have to communicate, and you have to do all the little things that go along with it, and an understanding, because let's face it, long-term relationships, you can find yourself in a groove, you can find yourself in a state of doing the same procedural things, and taking it for granted, and then of course that's when it tends to fall apart. So it's a great song, and Jerry Jeff Walker is really doing great. So I thought I'd follow that up with, and full disclosure here, I thought I was going to go with nothing but 21st century songs, so I didn't, but it came close. But I went with Lady Gaga's "Million Reasons." Again, I'm not the biggest lady. I like her music. Obviously, she was at the Super Bowl. She opened the Super Bowl with a great song. She's always around. Obviously, she's one of those people that's huge, and I thought this was just a great song. I think it was off the Stars Born movie soundtrack, and it's just a nice song. Where I think Mike mentioned this when we were making this over the messenger. He's like, "Well, can we play songs that don't mention the word love?" And it was like, yeah, of course, because you don't have to say love to show love. And I think this is one of those songs where, again, it's, she's singing about, we all fall into those trappings sometimes where everything your significant other is doing something wrong, but just give me one reason to love you, why we fell in love. And so I thought, and I think it's a beautiful song, obviously. And so that's one of the reasons I picked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I wasn't, can't say I was familiar with it. I know a few of the Lady Gaga songs. Um, uh, she's amazing. She really is. And I really loved the way this started and the piano on it. And it's going to be a central theme you're going to hear because like the next like 7 songs, I think it was, featured the piano. And I don't think we deliberately tried to do this, but the way they went from one song to the next, whereas even in similar keys at times, and it was just I don't know, it was playlist brilliance in my mind. But again, yeah, this is a great song, again, I wasn't familiar with it, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I saw Stars Born, and that was kind of the first time. That's before we started making these, and that was the first time I gave her a proper listen. And I was like, wow, she is talented, the acting and the singing. And this is both the songs you put on so far by her. You're the sole Gaga representative at this point. But I'm like, okay, man, cool. And yeah, the million reasons. It's like, man, we all have our flaws, and that's love. If you can find one thing that you can go up against the million other things that some of all of us bring to the table. I sure have, and I keep coming up with new ones, but So yeah, and so I went with Joni Mitchell's song next, "A Case of You," which is one of my all-time favorite of her songs. It's off Blue, which is a lot of people cite as their kind of inspiration in her music. It's influenced a lot of people. It's basically I could I could drink a case of you and still be on my feet, and it's I think she's playing it's not a guitar. It's like a thing that you lay in your lap, like a dulcimer or something like that. I don't think it's whatever. Anyway, I saw a video of her doing it, and it's really cool. But yeah, I saw there was a person that used to work at the restaurant where I worked, and I heard she was playing at the Cactus, which is a local kind of bar, coffee shop at UT. And so I'm like, oh, what the heck? I went up there and grabbed a beer and watched, and she played this song. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I went out and checked it out, and it's one of my favorites.
Now, is it a case of her, no pun intended, breaking up with somebody but still pining for him? That's how because at the beginning she's talking about.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah. Not that
Well, I did ask if I could do some songs about love's bitter sting. So
Right.
I guess I got one here. Let me see. It's like
Anyway, sorry, Dave.
is
Go
that the one
ahead.
where she says I made my baby cry, or is that no? I'm thinking of I wish I had a river I could skate away from here. That's more like that. I don't know. I don't know. Good call. So anyway.
Go ahead. Is it me? I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah, you were
Yeah.
talking, I kind of cut
Yeah.
in there.
it was, yeah, I think it was the case. that she's breaking up, and then she talks about Canada, and maybe from Canada she's bringing her heart and she wants to still be with the guy, but even though they've had this breakup relationship, she's still kind of in love with them, and so she could still have a case of you. You know, that's how I read it. You know, as a case of she's fell in love with this person and broken up and then gone. But I could be wrong about that.
No, no, no. You're the first line,
Right,
and I guess I just never heard it. Just before our love got lost.
right. So that's how
Yeah,
I.
it's like
interpreted that.
somehow I listened past that, and I'm listening to all the details of, you know, their relationship. So good
Right,
point.
but it's right. Love is that's part of love is breaking up as well. So you know, and she's there, and then sometimes the one who's still in love still wants to be in love, you know, but the other person's like, no, you know, this is over, and so you know, love flows both ways. I don't, so I'm sure someone has said that once or twice in their life. So
And she was able to weave Canada into it. You know, I gotta like that. Drew a map of Canada and with your face sketched on it twice, and I like that. And then the other line she had on there, and it's not that I'm remembering, and I'm actually looking at the lyrics over here, but where she says, "I am a lonely painter. I live in a box of paints." That was kind of cool. So
yeah,
she's always, again, that's her brilliance, is that she can paint a picture for you, right? Not just sing a song. Um, and it's, you know, sad to see her. I know we've been seeing a little bit more of her lately with some of these benefit concerts and everything. She seems to get on stage, sit in her chair, and sing both sides now, right? That's kind of her thing right now. But at least we have that. We have the opportunity to still hear from a living legend, which is nice. So yeah, I like it. It wasn't my favorite, because I'll just put it out there. You got to be kind of right in the mood for it, and this is a good mood playlist for it, right? But you got to be kind of locked in when you're listening to Joni. You know, you can't just be thinking about other things or listening to it in the background. She's so intense. So
well,
but
what I liked about it is that it did flow with A Million Reasons and A Case of You. Both
right.
of them kind of have this similar theme, so that's why I thought they went well together.
Right. And then so my next selection, you know, we said love, and it could be any kind of love type of relationships and stuff. And I put on 1-5 for Fighting song, I think earlier with 100 Years. And I think we all know Superman is the other one of their other hit songs. It's really just one guy. But he calls himself, or the band, 5 for Fighting. I didn't really realize this till I did more research, and I probably can't tell you his name. I think it's like John Andrusek or something like that. But he's pretty much it. He plays the piano, and then he has some other sessions people that help him with recording the music. And I came across this song. It's called "The Riddle," and it's a song about love, about him and his son and his child. And I don't know what it is about it. Maybe whether it's the piano and the things it is, but it drew me in. I like the lyrics of it. You know, where he says, hang on just a second. You know, well, first of all, it's cool that he puts, he says, "Catch a Dylan song." You know, it's always nice when you can add that into it. But when he says, so the chorus is, "Here's a riddle for you. Find the answer. There's a reason for the world, you and I." And just that part of the song right there, the chorus part. And then later on he says, you know, you know, that I love you free, I love you free. But just that the fact that he, you know, says there's the reason for the world. Here's the answer to this riddle. If you want to figure out the reason for the world, it's you and I. And his son repeats that back later on as he grows older and says, "Hey, Dad, I remember that riddle you taught me. You know, that's just all about you and I. And if we just have that, we'll be all right." And so anyway, I thought it was a cool song. I love the piano, and again, the piano from Million Reasons. And then, did Joni Mitchell have sort of a kind of a piano in there, or was it something else?
I think it was that dulcimer thing.
So maybe it was
It's
something
not-
like that, but it felt like that. And
Yeah.
then the riddle went all piano on us too. And so, yeah. Anyway, what'd you think?
Yeah, I liked it. He has a very distinctive way of singing. I don't remember if he kind of hits those high notes. I don't remember if he did that on those other songs. I'll have to go back and review. But yeah, it's something that we all need to learn. If we're lucky, we can figure out that riddle or at least get a glimpse at it. And it's sweet. Yeah, I like that where it's kind of like my love song by Lennon is kind of a more general look at love, and this is not just romantic love here. This is love between a father and son, which, yeah, that's important too. And the worldwide love, the general concept of love, all those things. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. The riddle. I mean, my son is my whole life, so definitely his thing. I will say, full disclosure, I've never heard of Five for Fighting. I don't even know the Superman song. I must be totally oblivious to this song. You guys talk about it like it's. I was like, man, I don't know. I guess if I heard it, I would probably know it, but I've never heard that song in my life. Now, again, you guys talk about actually listening to the radio. I don't think I've listened to the radio in 25 I'm anti-radio. I don't believe we should be spoon-fed by the man. Just my personal philosophy. So I don't listen to the radio. So when this now, that doesn't mean I'm totally oblivious to stuff. Obviously, with the stuff I put on, and you guys have opened up a whole new avenue. But again, this is one of those situations where man, I've never heard of this guy. I don't know this guy. I don't even know the song they're talking about. Even the little research, I'm like, Superman, what is that? I don't know that song. So having
Well,
said that,
you will, because I'm going to put it on a playlist and it's coming.
when we do our superhero playlist.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, but it's a beautiful song. Obviously, my son is my whole life, and so it's such a great song. It's an emotional song for me because I don't get to spend as much time with my son now as I'd like to. He lives obviously away, but every day, that's all I think about. So yeah, just a fantastic song. Which leads me to, because of the piano, again, because I'm trying to go more 20%. I don't listen to the radio. The reason I know John Legend is that I used to have a student worker who just loved John Legend because he was from Springfield, Ohio. And so All of Me by John Legend is the song. And she would play his music. I'd give them their hour to play their music. And he was one that was always like, "Well, wow, that guy is really, really good." And this song is all about sacrifice. He has a lot of great lyrics, but it's about when being in love and you have to make sacrifices as well as, being while you're in love. And so, you're of course, the lyric your perfect imperfections" is just such a great little phrase there that he has in there. So just thought it was a fantastic song and thought I would put it in.
Yeah.
Is it my turn or is it your turn?
Yeah, it's your turn.
It's your
So-
turn. My bad.
Did you consciously think though about the piano part? Because that just flowed so well. I was like, we're listening to the piano and then the John Legend piano came in and yeah, this is a great song. This is another one of those ones where I think I remember the chorus of this one. I knew it was All of Me. Again, it's one of those, I knew 4 or 5 John Legend songs, and this is one of them from listening to the radio. But yeah, this is a great song. When you put it on, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I wish I would have thought of this one. This is a great love song. I like where he says, my head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. Yeah, it's a really great song, and probably should listen to a little bit more John Legend for sure.
I've heard of him, and I know I've seen him perform with people on different shows. I forget who all, live, like on, not Letterman's, who I'm going to, Colbert or somebody. But I don't really know a lot about him. I tell you what, when I heard this, I hadn't heard it before. When I heard it the first time when you suggested it or picked it, it reminded me of the sound in a way of some of the Lady Gaga stuff. That piano, that certain You know, I think it's in a minor key, the certain phrasing. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Now we have, you know, this guy. And I think one of the things that really jumped out for me is talking about, you know, loving the imperfection, or loving because not despite, but accepting that as part of the package. Because when, I don't know about you guys, when I was a kid, it's like I had this image of like, this is what love is, you know, it just, and it's not. If you're just going to go for that stuff, the good looks and the, you know, the happy times, then it's not, you know, it's, you're gonna have a rough go, because we all have imperfections. Boy, I do. So I'm fortunate that somebody was able to put up with them for a while. Well, so far. So yeah, and the piano thing, the song I did pick because I wanted it, but when it wasn't really high on my list necessarily. But when I heard that piano, for some reason, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do this. So I picked "At My Most Beautiful" by REM, which is off of one of their later albums, Up. Well, it wasn't their last, and maybe 3 or 4 from the last. And it's clearly inspired by Brian Wilson. You know, it has that whole, the harmonies, the tambourines, all the little things he did in their Beach Boys and his solo stuff. But I always thought it's such a touching song. It's you know, just he's just so in love with his other person's everything. It's like, I leave bad poetry on your machine, which is dated. I guess it should now be voicemail. Does anybody have an answering machine anymore? And what was the, oh, this one always cracks me up because I count your eyelashes secretly while you're sleeping, which my thought would be, if I woke up suddenly somebody's staring in my eyes, I would probably scream. So but yeah, I like it. I haven't had a chance to put REM on for a while. So
Yeah, this was one of the few times on this playlist I was like, I've never heard that. I don't think I've ever heard it, or I've heard it but discarded it. And so I had to do my research, our research, and yeah, inspired by the Beach Boys. And then once you realize, oh, this was inspired by the Beach Boys, you're like, oh yeah, now I get it. Now I know where they're coming from, and it really is. And I guess they were kind of challenged to write a song like the Beach Boys. So I guess inside the group, and it is a beautiful song. And you know, when you think of REM, you know, you think of all the other songs that they have. They have other love songs as well, and so this was usually not on the top of people's top list of REM love songs. So I thought it was a great addition, and it really sounded great. Was I not supposed to go? Damn it! Oh yeah, no, I was.
it's all good.
Yeah, you know, you said you were deliberate with putting the piano thing on, and the end of the John Legend song and the piano. I'm not sure exactly the key thing or whatever, but it went so perfectly into the REM song with the piano. I do have one knock against it. If Michael Stipe is listening, and Peter Buck or whatever, here's the deal with this song. I love it, but the production and the piano is such at such a level that I can't hardly hear the melody and the lyrics as well. Even when I'm in my car and I try to crank it, right? It's still not completely balanced. Like, again, maybe like The Riddle or All of Me, or some of these other songs we're going to hear in a few minutes in a few minutes as well. I just wish that was higher, so I wasn't having to strain to try to hear what the lyrics. And maybe that was on purpose. Maybe that's how they did it. Maybe it's to, you know, like I said, to you know, inspired by the Beach Boys or whatever. But I found myself, unless I'm looking at the lyrics, or unless I'm really tuned in and cranking it up, coming from the one song before to this, I had a hard time with it. So I had to go back and listen to it a couple of times in order to get the real feel for it. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful song, and I didn't expect that from REM necessarily. You know, the guitars and the other stuff, but I didn't expect this song, so it was kind of a surprise to me. I just wish the vocals had been matching the piano, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it does. It actually, now that you mention it, yeah, I've heard it so many times, and they definitely were trying to do that heavy production. I don't know that all the effects that the Beach Boys did. I think the difference is the Beach Boys were much more in the front of the music, even with that going on. And Michael Stipe is a famous mumbler. He got better later on in the career, but I mean those early couple of albums, it's sometimes hard to hear. So no, I don't mind the criticism. It's a good point. You know, yeah. And
And
I
then-
think it's an off beat, not well known song too. That I
Right.
like.
Well, then again, I had an opportunity to put the next song on and stayed with the piano thing, really. I mean, it has piano and guitar in it, but the Glenn Campbell song, I'm Not Gonna Miss You. And I mean, talk about a love song. If you haven't had an opportunity, I mean, we all know the greatness of Glenn Campbell, but you know, he ended up dying of Alzheimer's. Very well documented documentary on it. I don't remember where it was, on PBS or it was on something. If you get a chance to see it, and they've actually chronicled his last couple of years as he was in decline, and so they would show his family, his wife, his kids, all that kind of stuff. And then you know this song here, um, you know, he says, "I'm still here, but yet I'm gone. I don't play guitar or sing my songs." But it says, "The man that loves you till the end, you're the last person that I will love." And then he says, "I'm not going to miss you because of because of the Alzheimer's. You know, he can't remember that each time." It's just a sad reminder of how horrible it is to have to get and have Alzheimer's, especially for the loved ones and the people that are closest to you. And even in the documentary, they showed where at times he was a little cantankerous and a little bit not mean necessarily, but he was frustrated with himself, right? That they couldn't do the things or remember the things and stuff like that. And so his loved ones though had really rallied around him, and just it's sad that he's gone. But this song is just such a beautiful song that I had to put it on.
It is very much so. The arrangements, I don't know who wrote it. It sounds like just, I think at that point, haven't seen it, but he mentions, "I don't play guitar anymore," you know, and that's where he kind of cut his teeth in music, playing guitar with other folks as kind of a session guy. And then, but it's so poignant, and it is sad, but I mean, it's really sad, but the song is so beautiful. We're using that word a lot, but it's true. And you know, the songs I like best by him are the ones that have that kind of sense of longing, and you know, like Wichita Lineman. So coincidentally, many of those were Jimmy Webb songs, but Wichita Lineman, Galveston, things like that. And this one, yeah, it's not really, he's just saying, you know, "I love you, but I'm about to be somebody who's not going to show it anymore, and I'm not going to get it," you know. And if you've had anybody with dementia in your life or growing dementia, you see that start to creep in, and it's hard. And the anger that's in cantankerousness, that's part of it too. It's just like, you know, I think when I was listening to this, I'm thinking about, you know, my wife and I, you know, it's like, odds are the way things go, she's probably going to be around longer than I am. And, you know, I hate for her to have to go through that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and let's face it, and we talk about this, listening to this song now at our age is 60 plus, you know, that could be you in 20 years. So, you know, it hits more harder than if I heard this at age 20. And let's face it, Glenn Campbell, you never like to see the decline of anybody. Now, he wasn't a saint, obviously, and by no means. He had his issues with all his stuff. But at the same time, we see these people in a certain light, and we see them at their youth, and unless they pass away young, you know, you see the decline of certain artists, some of your favorite artists, you know, less so we got to you got to see Jerry Garcia, just the steady decline where in the latter years you're just like, man, that is, there were some shows where you're just like, what's going on? And you hate to see that. And going back to this on a personal level for his family, I mean, what they have to endure, and for him to recognize that and show them, hey, this is going to happen. I know this is going to happen. I mean, that takes a lot of guts, because first of all, most people are in denial or don't want to admit to it, and so they do get angry. But he was courageous enough, I would say, to show them like, hey, this is going to happen, and smart enough to do it. So just a fantastic song. And another song, that is a different kind of love. And my next song by Fish, I went to my old standards, is Shade, and it doesn't use the word love, but it's again about what you take for granted, what you like about a person, the little things about a person, uh, what you might lose, what you might gain, and it's called Shade. And of course, the chorus is, I only like the shade when you're blocking the light, which I think is just a fantastic lyric. I mean, it's just one of those songs that when you hear it, uh, it, it kind of hits you like, wow, that makes sense to me in a weird sort of way. That makes sense to me. And so again, I'm completely biased because I love Fish. And it's funny that I have to play the studio version because I never listened to the studio version till I put them on this playlist. So it's funny to hear the piano. The piano is always a part of it, but to hear strings and stuff like that, I think it added a little more depth to it.
Yeah, I love this song. This is one of my favorites on the playlist. Um, Again, the piano thing, it was the feature, and again, it started out that way. Um, but yeah, the lyric, I only like the shade when you're blocking the light. Um, just a great Fish song that I was never aware of. Again, there's 20 or 25 songs that I do know of Fish, and but this wasn't one of them, and so I'm glad you put it on. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, I think early on, especially maybe you got a little bit of teasing for the amount of Fish you're putting on. But now at this point, I would like to encourage you to put a Fish song on every playlist. I'm really getting to like it. I'm not hearing the live stuff so much because, we're not doing it on here. I've seen a few videos since, but it's great. And I've the same line. I was going to say the same thing that, you know, the shade line. It's really cool. I'm hoping that they come through here as rumored, and I can make it work because they're pushing my buttons now, or pushing my button, whatever. A good thing.
I think I think if there's a group we can all get together and go see, I think this is the one. I think you've convinced us now, Jose. Mike and I are close to being fish fans. So
Fish heads.
fish heads, fish.
Are they called fish heads?
No,
No,
some fish
fishies.
heads.
That would piss somebody
Fishers.
off, I bet.
Fish fans. They're just fans. I don't think they really have. There's some other words for people who are like people who follow them and are too hippie-ish called Wookiees, but you don't want to be a Wook. So, but it's one of those. Yeah, and I also like the lyric, south of the border and over the moon. I mean, such great little clever lyric. Anyway, I go on too much about Fish, but I hope y'all one day get to see him. And like I said, I'll give you my rules on how I watch Fish, which is A, don't talk to me. B, leave me alone. C, I'll tell you everything before it happens. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah. There's two songs on here I put on specifically. There were a lot of others, and maybe we'll talk at the end about ones we were gonna include that didn't make it. But two songs that I have in common with Rachel. This is Corinne Bailey Rae doing "Like a Star," which is not a song. I don't really have any of her records, but Rachel has played her stuff so many times. Like "Girl, Put Your Records On." That's one that she's played a lot, and then this one. And so I wanted to kind of put something we had in common. I think it's a beautiful song. I think she's a great songwriter and performer. Kind of think of her kind of the same. Now I'm going to forget their names. Nora Jones and people. Alicia Keys, kind of in that same time period. So anyway, yeah, there's not much else I can say about it. We just love that song, and yeah.
Yeah, this actually was a song that didn't connect with me initially. I was like, what's this? What, like a star? Where's this coming from? I don't know. Again, and then when you do the research, you're like, oh, she won a Grammy for this or was nominated, and you're like, where, what? I must have been knee deep in the jam band scene because I'd never heard of. I think I'd heard the name, but I'd never heard this song or this thing. But as like most of these playlists, as you play it, you get to understand it more. And as I read about it more, I was like, oh, and so you can't give that initial this song sucks, I'm not going to play it. You have to let it, okay, let me listen to it 3 or 4 more times, let me get into it. And on occasion, because I know sometimes these playlists, the bottom ones tend to get the short end sometimes because we run out of time or we do something like that. So I would consciously put this on to see, okay, where's Mike coming from? What's he like about this song? And so it grew on me. And so I started to like it a little more. Still not my top, but I get where it's coming from.
Well, Mike always has a way of finding that female artist or that bluesy kind of song again, to echo what Jose said, I wasn't familiar with this at all. So I'm glad in a way that you broke up the 7 piano songs in a row kind of thing and put something else on, because it was a good run while it lasted, but we kind of needed to shift into something else. And this was a good bluesy kind of sultry love song kind of thing. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with it either, but it took me a few listens to kind of fully appreciate it. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I don't have anything great to say about it, but it's a nice song, and very very much hit the love theme for sure.
Mm.
And then at that point, though, then I kind of did the same thing. I kind of went off the rails and said, "All right, I've already done the songs guy I kind of wanted to put on." And earlier in the playlist, I had tried to pick a song, but it wasn't in the Apple playlist library. We couldn't find it. It was a song by John Anderson and Vangelis, but so I had to go with another John Anderson song. And the only reason why I did is because we've gone a lot of playlists and a lot of songs, and I love John Anderson. I love John Anderson because he loves love. I mean, he's so upbeat and positive and energetic, and he has so many really songs where he talks about love. And this was one of his solo albums. I think one of his first or his second solo album. So it goes back in the day. It was all Songs of Seven, but the song was called "Everybody Loves You," and he said, "Everybody loves you, but I just love you a little bit more." And it's just an upbeat kind of a fun song that he does. And I don't know. I've been looking for an opportunity to put John Anderson on at some point. If you don't know, he was the lead singer for Yes, but he also had a solo career and also did stuff with Vangelis. And so again, he loves love. John Anderson is all about love. And so I figured I needed to pick a song, and this was one of his earlier songs, and put it on the playlist.
I'll admit that I don't know a lot of. I don't really know much of his solo stuff at all. You mentioned John Vangelis, but so it's nice to hear this. When you said this is early 70s, mid 70s?
No, it's probably late 70s, probably 78, something like that, 79.
You probably have put something from this on a previous list at some point that I've been back in the day, because I recognize the cover. But it's nice to hear him outside of Yes and get more of an idea. Although at the very end, there's keyboards that one could say sound a little bit like Rick Wakeman, some kind of synthesizer, something. But yeah, it's more of an upbeat kind of thing after my kind of slow, drowsy Corinne Bailey Rae, and I stand by that song, but you guys are fine with your opinions, of course. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about it other than another one I need to check out, because I've been, he's not with the band anymore for a number of reasons, I guess. But he's been, but he has clearly a body of work that I need to check out. So it's a great song.
Well, if you hung around Dave Duke in the in your years, you know John Anderson. He's the one who turned me on to John Anderson, and thank goodness. I always say that voice always is uplifting and always puts you in a great state of mind. It's just one of those voices that just gets there. And then to add, everybody loves you, but I love you just a little bit more. Oh my God, you're just like, yes, that's right. The world is great. People do love me. And a lot of his songs are like that. They're just uplifting. Now he has some fun songs as well. They're not all about love. And when he sang with Yes, obviously they weren't all, but when he sings about love, you know it, and and it makes you feel more loving, more caring. Like, man, he is so positive, he's so uplifting, that how could you not be inspired by that? And so I always thank Dave, because of course now I own at least 5 John Anderson solo albums. I even got his newest one, just because,
Really?
coupled with the fact that you get an autograph. It was only like $10.
Wow.
To have John Anderson's autograph is, for me, who collects autographs, is like, it's so premium. It's like, oh my God, he's one of my heroes because of Dave. So yeah, and it's really good solo. And he's been touring. He doesn't come down to Texas, but he's been touring with his band. And if I ever get a chance, I definitely have to see John Anderson. So yeah, it was a great.
On my bucket list.
Oh, for sure. And so the next I went with, to kind of mix it up, I went with Tracy Chapman, For My Lover. It's an album I played Mountains of Things on one of them, and it's just an album that it was her debut album, and I thought I considered that one of the perfect albums. And this is one of those songs that I think conveys, what do you do for love? And we've all been there. We've all done crazy, dumb stuff for love. You'll drive 5 hours just to see someone, or you'll do something insane. And this is kind of conveys that, in a heartfelt manner, and even when people are like, what are you doing that for? Why would you do that? Well, what would you do for love? And so, I love that how you that question is always posed, is what would you do for love? And we've all done crazy things about that. So I thought this was just a good song to put on.
Yeah, I gotta go back and listen to that whole album. I forgot. I kind of just forgot about this song, right? But it's such a good song. I just hadn't heard it in so long. I don't know. It's probably been 30 years or something since I've heard this song. And so when you put it on, it's like, oh yeah, I love that. 2 weeks in a Virginia jail for my lover. It's just great, Tracy Chapman. And yeah, I was really digging on this song when it came on. So it was a good way to bring us down and close towards the end of the playlist, for sure.
Yeah, I was just looking up the record, because I remember the first thing I heard of this record. I'll get to the song in a second. But the first thing I heard of this record was Fast Car, because that thing just exploded on MTV, and it was on so much I kind of got tired of it. But then I got a cassette of this, and it's just Fast Car, Talking About a Revolution, Baby Can I Hold You, these For My Lover, Mountains of Things, just on and on. It's just such a great record. And this song she's like, the things you want to do for love, like you said. She's, whatever the backstory is, there's a lot of ambiguity there, what exactly is going on. But a jail in Virginia for 2 weeks, something happened. I remember back in the day, people did a lot of speculation. Was this about, it's in Virginia, it could have been in the past. Was it about like a interracial relationship that was frowned upon, or same sex? It never really, and she doesn't talk about any of that. She's very closed on her private life, which she should have the right to. Everybody should. So anyway, but it's it's the things you want to do for love. That's a real admirable thing. She's questioning herself in the song too. It's like, am I doing the right thing? But I'm doing this I'm going through this because of the depth of love I have. So, yeah, thanks for bringing us back.
It must have been something serious because a $20,000 bail ain't no joke.
Yeah. Well, it's like you have to pay what, 10% to get out, and then you owe the rest. So, yeah. And anyway, you do the math.
But that was back in the late 80s too, so that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so I went from there. I kind of, this is the other song I mentioned, Rachel, and I like this whole album. It's As by Stevie Wonder from Songs in the Key of Life. And it's probably, it must be 7 minutes. It's the longest song on here because it really has this extended ending. But it's, I've never seen Stevie Wonder in concert where it wasn't just, even his songs about hard things. The whole concert is such an uplifting, positive experience. And it's like, this is, I'll be loving you always. And he's not just talking about a person, he's talking about, the universal love, just love, right? But Rachel and I went to see, this is Songs in the Key of Life, and he toured on the anniversary of some anniversary year of that record and did the whole record in concert. It was one of the, I may be repeating myself, one of the first 3 records I had. I don't know which is the order. I think Sgt. Pepper's was first, this and the White Album. And so this one I played to death. I'm on I have my second copy of Now Listen CDs. I have CDs and whatever, but I'll be loving you always. And he does a little bit of a rap before rap was really a thing. This is 75, I think, or 76. He's singing it, but he's still kind of got that rap thing going. So yeah, I just want to end it that way.
Yeah. No, saw the same tour, thought it was great. Think the song is great. What I really like about this song, other than of course the lyrics, which are fantastic and again uplifting, as much as John Anderson can be uplifting, so can Stevie Wonder in his own way. And what I really like about this is at about the 3-minute mark, it goes into that kind of that little instrumental play. And when I looked it up, Herbie Hancock. So how could you go wrong with Herbie Hancock on Stevie Wonder? So just adds a little element to that song. Not that you needed to know anything about that, but it's so beautiful, and you're like, oh. So I had to go look it up. I was like, what? There's an instrumental part in there. I wonder who played on that. And sure enough, that's what it was. So the things you learn about the songs that you've heard all your life. And yeah, I saw the same tour, and like you said, Mike, on that tour, I don't know what he did with yours, but he would bring in symphonic people from the area, like from the Columbus Symphony. And then he'd bring a choir in as well. And so, and obviously he had special guests as well singing along with him. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say he had, I counted, I don't remember now, but I counted at one point the number of people on stage, and it was just, I don't know if I've seen a concert with that many people. And his daughter, the song, Isn't She Lovely? The right. Little baby in that song is now grown up, and she was part of the chorus or whoever was singing. It was a very uplifting show.
So.
Well, this is a great song, and it doesn't feel like a 7-minute long song. It just, because as I start listening to it, it's like I'm into it, and I can't get enough of it. And it's like, just keep playing, just keep keep doing it, and it's all positive. And there were I think 3 or 4 albums that I might have fast fingered from my sister's album collection. They became mine. One was Fleetwood Mac Rumors, one was Rolling Stone Goathead Soup, and this is the third one, this album. So I don't know how it ended up, but it ended up in my collection, and they never knew it. And so sorry over the years, but I love this album. I played it to death. Also, like, incidentally, with the 50 years Saturday Night Live thing, I got a chance to watch that part of that last night with all the music and everything, and Eddie Murphy imitating Stevie Wonder. Is classic. It's so good with Stevie Wonder there, and doing the songs and singing with him. And then I think he does like an Ebony and Ivory kind of thing with Frank Sinatra. It's really, really good. But yeah, it's a good way to end the playlist as well, Mike. Again, I thought the playlist was great, top to bottom. It made me get in the mood for love. And again, there's hundreds of thousands of other love songs that other people could have picked. These are the ones we chose this time. We'll probably have to do a love 2 and a love 3 and a love 4 or something like that down the road. But I thought it was well done by all of you.
Yeah, it really was well done. And as much as I'm in a different place than y'all, I'm not married or anything like that. It really reminds you of what love is all around. You know, whether you be in a relationship, whether it's family, whether it's something like that. Love is so vital, especially nowadays. You know, where people tend to want to hate, but you gotta love, and love is so vital. And it just bring and this playlist puts you in, like Dave said, puts you in the mood of being uplifting, being spiritual. I didn't bring this up, and maybe it's a little too deep, but and you'll find that there's a lot of allusions in some of the songs, like in "Perfect" and "Million Reasons," to religion. And so I think love has to do with a lot with, and religion and love all have to do with faith. You got to have that faith and love and stuff like that. Now that may be digging in too deep, but if you listen to some of these songs, they all make allusions to some sort of religion, like "Perfect." You know, your barefoot on the cross. You know, and then "Million Reasons" has some allusions to it. There's and all of me. There's all little things in there that a kind of clue, and I think they kind of go hand in hand. Faith is so important in religion. Faith is important in love as well. Now, of course, I'm not the most religious person I know. Maybe Dave should be making this speech, but it's just something that I noticed as we did this.
Yeah, no, actually, it. Rachel and I were listening to this the other day when we were doing the puzzle, and we were talking about in the song "As." I'll just read a little bit of it. That little rap part I'm talking about. That's probably not the right term for what he's doing, but it's like we all know sometimes life, hates, and troubles can make you wish you were born in another time or space. But you can bet your lifetimes that and twice it's double that God knew exactly where he wanted you to be placed. Let's see. Change your words into truth and change that truth into love. And maybe our children's grandchildren and their great grandchildren will tell, I'll be loving you. So, yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I didn't even think about this too. But the John Anderson song, I don't exactly know what he means by it, but he says, "God, you know, he wears a blue T-shirt too, with God inscribed in heaven on both sides." So I've always wondered what he meant by that.
Maybe so. Oh, never mind. I was going to make a bad joke. Never mind.
Yeah, but it's interesting that a lot of these songs have that element to it. Just to, throw that out there. And believe me, I'm not the most religious person, obviously, but I'm not that. But you can see in a lot of this, and that's my correlation, is that faith is so vital in both of them that that you need it in both aspects, and I think they go hand in hand.
I agree, and they should. I mean, people can use religions for hate, but I think so much of them are founded based on love. I know. Yeah, I just won't go off on that anymore. But I echo your thought there.
Were there any love songs that you were just burning to put on and you just didn't? Was there any that you just said, "Oh man, I wish I would have"?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of Beatles songs that have it, but since we had just done the Beatles, you kind of don't put it. You're like, okay, I'm not going to put any of the Beatles love songs. And I think Mike alluded to that. I was going to put some Alicia Keys songs on there. She has some beautiful love songs that I thought would have fit in well with this. Again, I think it's kind of this. I'm trying to open avenues, as you guys are pointing out. Man, I missed a lot on the radio and stuff that I'm learning so much, and that's why I'm trying to explore new avenues. So.
Yeah, I had a bunch of stuff that wouldn't have fit. Like I had some Sinatra, and Harry Nilsson. There's a couple, "Without You." It's just such a hard
I
one.
had that. That was one I was going to do. I was going to play that one.
I was more likely, that same album, there's a song "I'll Never Leave You," which I was probably more likely to play. And what was the one? Okay, so you mentioned Richard Thompson, and that's what when we were talking about when we were actually doing this playlist via chat. He has a song called "Tear Stained Letter," which I said I wanted. Could I put something on about love's bitter sting? I've said this 2 or 3 times now. It's a song, basically, it's like he was in love with somebody, she dumped him, And as he's getting over, right through the door comes a tear-stained letter. And it's an upbeat song, and he really jams out on guitar. It's electric, and it's a great song, but it didn't fit. But you can count on I'm going to put it on somewhere eventually.
Well, there were a couple other ones I had that were a little more, I don't know, cheesy or whatever, but some of the like Chicago or Pete Cetera, Glory of Love, You're My Inspiration, stuff like that.
Hard Habit to Break.
Hard Habit to, yeah, all of that kind of stuff. I thought about some of that. Had some Jim Croce I thought maybe would go, and then I even thought of Led Zeppelin, All of My Love. I thought I was thinking about putting something like that on, but not sure where would it fit. And yeah, so it was good, fun stuff.
Yep.
Right. No, I agree.
Well, good. Well, again, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoy the Valentine's love song playlist, and tune in next time, and we'll have another great playlist coming your way soon. I think it might be the Rolling Stones or something like that. It's coming
Yeah,
up.
I think we're keeping up our going to be doing our, I don't know for how much in the future. We've done Dylan. You're by the time you see this, the Beatles one, focusing on groups that really meant a lot to us, or still do.
Okay.
Love you.